Hello! I'm Elaine, and I'm a tour guide in the French Quarter. I do ghost tours. And I am not going to tell you the stories that I tell on my tour, because you gotta pay for those. But if you want to hear some interesting things that have happened to me while I'm leading random drunk people around the French Quarter, I got you. The third time I had to ask people to leave my tour actually was in the three-fight weekend. It was the group that was fighting with the other group in the tour. And just to give you a more comprehensive idea of that lovely shit show, when we got to the last stop, I now had two groups glaring at each other like they were going to murder each other. And I'm trying my best to speed through my last stop so that all the guests get the full experience, but I can get these people separated, going their separate ways as soon as possible. And at one point in the stop, I have to, ask. The two people who have been fighting with each other are currently standing on either ends of the group, but they're standing in the street, and a car is coming. So I casually look at both of them like, okay, guys, step up onto the sidewalk, car's coming. And the lady who had been sparking the fight, the one who would not stop talking throughout the entire evening, would not move. And I looked at her like 3 times. It's like, step up, car's coming, car is coming, car is coming. And getting more and more strident until basically her husband pulls her out of the street onto the sidewalk. And when they're up on the sidewalk, I continue the story, and as soon as the car is gone, the guy that had been fighting her steps back onto the street, but A, he's standing very close to the curb. He literally has 1 foot on the curb, and B, there's not a car coming, so I'm just like, screw it, I want to get done with this story, and I continue. And when I'm done with that story, I ask, are there any questions? And this lady raises her hand, and before I can even, prompt her to ask, she's like, why did you yell at me for to get out of the street when you didn't yell at that other guy? I was like, A, I asked you both to step up on the sidewalk because a car was coming, but also I talked to you both, and she's like, well, he stepped back out into the street. I'm like, yeah, he did. The car was gone. But she wanted to be in a fight, and the guy that I was, at this point, defending without wanting to, steps forward, he's like, yeah, she was yelling at us both equally, and you need to stop starting a fight with everybody. And before I know it, they're standing within, an inch of each other, screaming in each other's face. The woman's husband is trying to pull her back. The man's wife is trying to pull him back. I'm sitting there being like, oh my god, stop. And finally, I'm just like, guys, stop. The tour is over. Go your separate ways. You never have to see each other again, act like adults. Just turn and walk the other direction. And they won't go. And I have to say this 5 different times in different varieties before finally they start walking away. But meanwhile, I'm trying to basically check on all the other guests to make sure that they are not wanting to, get a refund or anything, because I can't help them with that. But I'm still hearing these people walking down the street, screaming at the top of their lungs at each other, and finally they stop in front of the rawhide, and I can see the bouncer looking over at me like, what's going on? And they're still standing in the middle of the street, screaming about how the others need to get out of their fucking business. And so down the entire street, yes, I scream, go separate ways! And I think they did after that, but I honestly don't know, because I was like, fuck it, they're not my responsibility. If the guys at the rawhide want to call the cops, more power to them. Then there is one other group that I have sort of shifted away from my tour, though I did not ask them to leave. It was simply a bachelorette party that was just a bit too much, a bit too drunk, a bit too excited, a bit too energetic, a bit too woohoo. And we happened to be having this tour during Fleet Week. Which, if you don't know what Fleet Week is, it's the time of the year when the Navy comes to a port city and drops off all their sailors and Marines to go out and have some fun. And specifically, they all have to wear their dress uniforms, so dress whites and dress blues as far as the eye can see, and most of them drunk. Though they are supposed to, of course, maintain the respect of the uniform. But that means that there are a lot of, 21-year-old guys in cute uniforms wandering around. And that weekend, because I knew they were there, I did a naughty and just turned the tour to go past Bourbon Street about an hour before it was supposed to, because I knew that those bachelorettes were going to get distracted by the guys in dress whites. And sure enough, past Bourbon Street, they're gone. I did see them one more time that night, though. They were in one of the golf carts that you can rent to drive you around, and they were hanging out the sides, woo-hooing. They had two sailors in the golf cart with them. One of them was twerking out the side, and the poor driver was looking back at them and screaming, "You need to sit down. I can't drive with you moving." Just please don't get kicked off of my tour. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you for listening.